Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Game Logic from the Rounding Off Infinity Gaming channel on YouTube, one of the co-hosts of the Enough to Keep Going weekly games podcast on the E2KG Network podcasting channel on YouTube, back with another episode. This is episode number 380 for the 23rd of March, 2025. Here with me, as always, I have my erstwhile and stalwart partners in crime. Let me first present to you erstwhile, Mr. DBQ Hams. How are you, DBQ?
Well, I am very erstwhile and upright and glad to be here, gentlemen. It's always good to be back every week here to talk about this week in games. So glad to be here.
Particularly this week, because we've got a barn burner bumper crop of games to discuss. Let me proceed on and present stalwart, Mr. Towmaster 99. How are you, Towmaster?
That is Sir Towmaster 99. Thank you very much. I'm doing good. Thank you very much. And also, I hope that's just your PC in the background blinking and not like a bomb about to go off. Because I see that constant blinking.
That is one of the gaming PCs blinking. Yes, actually one of the primary ones that I've been actually playing on this week. We have some hardware and tech shenanigans to discuss as well, and the Sir is quite appropriate given at least one of the games that's in the rundown tonight. And with that being said, without much further ado, let's get to it, and we'll kick it off with you, Tao, with one of your titles.
All right, yeah. So I have been playing 33 Immortals, which just came out last week. Actually, it's a game preview on Xbox is what I'm playing it on, or early access if you're playing on anything else like Epic or Steam or anything like that. Actually, I was playing it through xCloud. I just been streaming it, and it's not a super graphic intensive game or anything like that. Kind of hand drawn. It's very pretty. It looks like kind of hand-drawn art almost. I'm sure it's all done, on PC, but that's just kind of the graphic style it has, that kind of cartoony, more mature, I guess, a cartoony look to it. It's a rogue light. I forgot which one it is now. I was going to look it up and I forgot. So you jump into a server with 33 other people, other immortals, if you will. And you go into these dungeons, basically, and just kind of fight your way, there's kind of like a main dungeon you go through, you kind of fighting, your enemies and stuff. And then you can dip into kind of like harder areas within those dungeons where if you really should have, I would say at least 5 people, if not more, if possible. Hopefully all 33, if at all possible. I did a couple runs, what was it, last night or maybe during the day yesterday, where there was like a whole group of us, at least like 7 or 8 of us, and even with those 7 or 8 people, like those kind of second tier dungeons were just like incredibly hard. Like the bosses or the enemies are incredibly tough. So you have like kind of, and even in that area, it's not like you just have one boss or even two. Like there's a whole bunch of enemies, like regular enemies, and there's kind of like a main boss you have to fight, and defeat him, and you get you know money and some loot and key. Well, you get keys basically, which there's like a couple of chests when you go into that dungeon, that secondary dungeon, and once you beat that boss or the mini boss, you can open up those chests, and they give you all kinds of not necessarily like weapons or anything. It's more, I think they're called relics. So basically, they're kind of like perks you can use, throughout your runs. So when you do eventually die, you come back stronger and kind of go through these areas a little bit easier, maybe in those first little dungeon you get to, and then you have to keep going. But you keep doing these dungeons, and then I guess you have to get to a boss, like a main big boss eventually. And I haven't got to that point yet because I keep dying somehow after that first first kind of mini dungeon you go in, or the secondary dungeon you go into. Like you come back out into the world, and you kind of you're putzed around, trying to look for stuff, there's other like chests you can find, and like these big vases that you can break open, and they just give you I think bones that you can use to, and that's kind of like a currency within the game, where you can you can buy back some health that you might have lost, or like a teleporter, which I believe takes you. I haven't used a teleporter yet, but I think it takes you back to the main area. I guess I'm not really sure what the teleporter does. And then there's like a third thing you can buy in there, but it's kind of like a currency. So you're kind of doing that. But I'm doing that, and then all of a sudden, like the from the top down, like it starts from the top and kind of works its way down. There's like this storm or something that happens in the world. I'm not really sure what that is. I was going to look it up, but I haven't had a chance to today. I've been kind of busy. So, and if it hits you and goes past you, like you're pretty much dead, like within like just a few seconds. Like basically just drains your health. So I'm not really sure what's going on there. I don't know if I'm supposed to like head to the big boss at that point, or just like another area maybe. So I don't know. I'm not really sure, but it's pretty fun. You do have a little bit of customization in the game. You can change out some clothes and stuff. You kind of have like this cape or like shroud that you wear, and you can change that. I think something on your head you could change also. It might be a third item you might be able to change, but I think those are the two things right now that I can think of where you can customize. That's pretty much it. It's a pretty simple game, but it's pretty fun. Like it kind of reminds me like in Destiny of old when I used to play. You kind of jump into an area, and there's just people that you kind of organically start to fight with. You're just fighting regular enemies, and then you kind of group together, and then hey, you kind of see the enemies or your compatriots, other immortals on the screen, like if they're fairly close to you. But if they're too far away, I don't think you can't see them anymore. They just kind of disappear. But you can kind of see the icons of people like that are kind of fairly close to you. So that's kind of nice. I'll just like run over there and start helping people out, and hopefully people understand that you're supposed to be helping each other. It's not like a race or anything. So I kind of, the first I think couple of games I played when it first came out, it kind of seemed like that, like people weren't really sticking around with each other. But now these last few that I was playing yesterday, like people were like just group of people like kind of hunting around doing stuff. So it's actually pretty cool.
So do you all load into the same like instance then?
Yeah, I think when you first go in, you just have, I guess, potentially 33 people in that like server you first go into, and then there's just like a hub area that you can kind of run around and talk to a few people, and then you can then you can just go into the game, and then hopefully they all go into the game too at one point. So yeah, it kind of works that way. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Like I said, it's a fairly simple game so far. There's some areas though I'm a little confused if they don't have this yet in like the UI, or if I'm just missing it. But there's one area where you can like level up, basically kind of level up your character a little bit, or you get I think it had something to do with the relics, where you can start using those, and you can eventually I think I have to get to another level still where I can actually say I can wish for, basically you wish for a relic, and it's more of kind of like I think it kind of works more like a luck thing. Like when you do a run after you wish for something, it'll give you like a better chance of like finding a relic, and I think maybe eventually a certain relic you might be able to like wish for something. So, but it says have to reach like level, I think 6 was the first one. Like I didn't know how to figure out what level I was. Like I was hitting buttons, I was trying to go into menus, like I didn't see what my level was. So I might have just missed it because I was kind of hurrying too when I was playing, because I had stuff to do that I was trying to trying to get through a level to do. But I didn't really like it. It wasn't obvious to me like where what my level was of my character itself. So it was a little weird. But other than that, like I didn't really see any issues or anything with it. Like I didn't have any stuttering and playing through xCloud since I was streaming. I didn't have any issues. I was just played on, I think, my Xbox Series X. Yeah, Xbox Series X. And then I also played through my Steam Deck. And I didn't, there was no issues. And I was home, of course. So, I had fairly good internet. So I didn't have any issues, especially this is probably the first, I guess, multiplayer game I've played. And, it's not like a, twitchy, fast, first person shooter or anything. So I think, it could handle it. And it wasn't, a big deal or anything. So everything seemed to work out okay. But yeah, having a lot of fun. Might be something we might want to jump into one day. I think it's kind of a cool game to play with other people. So yeah, that was pretty much it.
Can you describe the
yeah, go ahead. Maybe
one at a time, gentlemen.
The combat a little bit, because I haven't installed. I played the little bit of the tutorial. So like at least in the tutorial, it feels like I'm running out of actions, and I need to I'm running out of slashes or attacks, and then need to replenish those in some case. What does that loop look like?
So were you using a bow? Do you remember when you played through the tutorial?
Yes, I think so. Like they were on the field, and I thought I could run around and try to pick them up. Yep.
Yeah, so with the bow, once you shoot them out, I think you get like, I don't know, like 4 or 5, maybe 6. Yeah, at the most. And then you have to use, I think that's with the X button, and then with the Y button, you retract those back in. You have to hold it down. You retract it back in, but it actually it'll hit the enemies too when you do that. So you can kind of position yourself, around an enemy, so it'll hit them when it comes back. So that's actually pretty cool. Oh,
like you can call it back almost like Kratos's axe, right?
Right. Yeah. And then they'll do damage. So that's pretty cool too. But once you get to the hub world, I don't know if like you turned it off after I don't know if you even got through the whole tutorial or not. Once you get to the hub world, you can actually change weapons. So like I've seen people with swords, and I think there's like 4 or 5 different weapons that you can choose from. More melee. I think all the other ones are pretty much like some kind of a melee attack for the most part. So there might have been like a magic staff in there too. Maybe I haven't changed weapons yet. I've just been using the bow, and then you can upgrade that bow. That's what I was thinking of before when I was talking about the upgrading and not trying to figure out like what level I'm at. It was doing the upgrades. Like I couldn't figure out what level I'm like. Oh, how far do I have to go before I can upgrade my weapon? But yeah, so you can change that later on.
Okay.
Yeah, and I actually saw a lot of people with melee weapons. I haven't seen too many people still using the bow, but I've been kind of on a bow and arrow kick lately, so I've just been using the bow myself.
So I know you said you're trying to figure out like what the leveling up, but what is the progression hook? Is it like attributes like for your character, or is it gear, or like is there any kind of looter aspect to this? In my head, something like this has either got to be a looter or about you making a build, and I'm not quite which of those two is it?
Yeah, the only thing you really pick up during your runs are the relics, which are like kind of the perks that you get. And as far as I can tell, you like once you pick one up and have it, like you just have it, and then whatever the perk is, you always have it. I don't think there's a limit as far as I can tell. I think it's more of kind of like Balatro, where you're looking for those jokers, and but in this case, you don't have to switch them out. You just always have them like all the time. So, but you can upgrade. You can upgrade your whatever weapon you happen to be using. Like I've upgraded it, I think my bow twice now. And then for the relics, also there's I think 5 or 6 like spots where you can switch out those relics. But right now I only have the one spot open, and that might only be because it's a game preview thing or early access. I don't know. How easily the other ones will be unlocked, and you can get more. You'll be able to use more of those relics at one time. So yeah.
So it's almost like what was the game? What was the 4-player co-op game that we used to play that was made by the Left 4 Dead guys?
Back 4 Blood.
Back 4 Blood.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it sounds almost like it's Back 4 Blood. Like you get except there's pickups now. So instead of getting like random cards that you earn out of a match or a level, you get pickups, and those pickups are persistent. they stick, but that makes that part of your build kind of randomized because you never know what it's going to be.
Right.
And then on top of that, you can also upgrade gear.
Yeah, and then you can just, as far as I can tell, you can just switch out like your weapons anytime you go back to that hub world as much as you want. Like I haven't seen any kind of like limit or anything. So
Okay. It's run based. Is it roguelite in terms of that there's persistence after a run? Like, do you unlock things that carry over from run to run?
It would just be those relics. Yeah, you always keep those. Yeah.
Okay.
So you don't have to keep finding them. And there's like a page or so, or two maybe even, of those relics. So I'm assuming there's going to be a lot of them. And then there's also, it looks like there's going to be, actually this is in the training. I think there's a training section you can do. Like I did like the first one, and it's it's basically the tutorial showing you what to do. And I think there's might be 2 other trainings or 3 that you can do after you get past that initial tutorial. But then there's 2 other training sections that are still locked right now, and I think and it just says that they're being worked on, or something like that, because it's in game,
because it is still game preview.
Yeah. So
and eventually you're going to have more relics than you have slots, so it will kind of be like you can make a build right for an individual run.
Yeah.
Okay. And then what is the enemy variety like? Are there like mini bosses, big challenges for you to surmount before you can clear a level, things that it makes, I don't want to say more sense, but things that are impacted by whether or not you have 5 people doing the level run with you, or 33 people?
Yeah, the initial dungeon you load into, there's kind of just like basic enemies like spiders or like these giant insect looking things. There's some like humanoid, almost like zombies. They could look like zombies. I don't know what they actually are, but those kind of creatures. And then when you get into that kind of the secondary dungeon you can go into, it's kind of like in Diablo, like when you first go out into out of a safe zone, you have like the open area and there's just enemies, and then there's other little pockets that you can, or caves or whatever, you can go into and do that. So it's kind of like that. And then those enemies in those secondary ones are usually, like I said, they're a lot tougher. And then there's mini bosses in there. And from what I can tell, because I keep getting killed after I do that first secondary dungeon, there's supposed to be like a big like main boss that you're supposed to fight, and I haven't got to that far, so I don't know if it's only that main boss or if there's other like little bosses kind of, or creatures or mobs or whatever running around also in that last area. So I haven't got to that far yet, so I don't know if I just have to, I got to figure out what that like storm thing is. I don't know what that is, like that kind of just kills you at the end.
Okay. We may not have made some last minute adjustments to the schedule. So just for this next game we're going into, which is led by DBQ Hams, has everyone played this title? Because I have as well, and I didn't add my name to it. Have you?
Not. No.
Okay. All right, DBQ, I will let you take it away.
Okay, let's talk about some Assassin's Creed then. So yes, I saw that it was on the schedule, that you had it on the schedule, and then it was gone. So I wasn't sure if that meant that you didn't get a chance to play much of it, Game Logic, or not. So I'm not that far in. I'm maybe a couple hours in through the prologue tutorial, kind of healed back up, kind of starting to open up a little bit. This game is beautiful. It is graphically, like the cutscenes just are stunning in terms of its game quality. I'm playing it on Xbox Series X.
Okay.
And so like my Assassin's Creed history, I enjoyed and played Origins. I put 120 hours into Odyssey. I bounced off Valhalla, and so this one I booted up, and I'm playing it in Japanese with subtitles. So that has got me reading a whole lot, but also really kind of pulls me into this world. I'm enjoying the movement of Naue in terms of the kind of stealth aspects, and I think the grapple hook or the climb aspects that she has, really kind of adds another layer into the gameplay in terms of swinging or even jumping up and clinging to a ceiling. So I haven't played that much with the kind of samurai character, in terms of the two characters, but I'm really enjoying the more assassins based one. and the stealth aspects of it, the parry, the parry aspects and the unblockable attacks from enemies have been consistent over the last 4 iterations. That they all have this kind of, you get the glowing red when somebody's going to do an unblockable attack, and you've got to dodge out of the way. You have a pretty forgiving parry window to break an attack or to kind of make your way through it. So I'm not kind of into all the level up aspects in terms of character progression yet, but really enjoying the world that they created. And yeah, I just am impressed with it. I also played a little bit on it. It got me to dig out and find my Amazon Luna controller to try it streaming on Amazon Luna. And once it loads in, I mean, the loads on Series X are barely anything in terms of kind of running through the Animus. Definitely a little more loading when you're streaming it through the cloud, but the graphics take a little drop, but the gameplay and the responsiveness has been pretty solid as well. So I was kind of impressed with that. But yeah, it is. So I'm not too far, but really enjoying the world and the gameplay. It definitely reminds me of 6 years ago of sinking 100+ hours into Odyssey and kind of just enjoying living in that space. So how far are you, Game Logic, or how much have you had a chance to kind of play around with it?
I'm not that far into it. Mostly the first thing I felt obligated to kind of do was to do some performance analysis around it, because there's
I'm curious on that.
Yeah, because that landscape has been a little problematic. I'm actually trying to give me a second to try and bring up some video. There's
Are you running on your RTX? I mean, on your, what card are you running it on then?
I'm running it on that PC that's in the back. That is on an RTX 4070.
Okay.
Yeah, so I've got gameplay up now, and I'm just gonna let this loop, I think, as much as I can. The landscape on PC performance analysis has been very problematic about this, and so just kind of one of the notes of kind of some of the tech shenanigans that have been going on with me personally. I think you guys know, and I've mentioned, I think over the last 2 weeks, that I had a one PC system that had another RTX 4070 in it, that I got the black screen bad driver issue that thank you NVIDIA, that led to me give me cause to believe that card had gone bad, because I knew about the driver problem, but it was a slow degradation that was not graceful. So a couple of weeks ago, 2 driver sets ago, it started happening. It got worse 1 driver set ago, and then it just wouldn't render any video once I got booted into Windows. I could get video while I was in BIOS, but as soon as it got into Windows, it couldn't, which was what told me it was a driver problem. I shifted it to another box, and then on that box, I could get output, but I couldn't get dual output. So it seemed to indicate that not only did I have the driver problem, but the car was going bad. But I restored that car. But anyway, that launched me over the last few weeks to do a lot of assessments about just kind of the state of the gaming market, and looking at different systems in my own network, and just looking at how cards scaled across modern games, in particular games that were coming out this year. So I made a lot of assessments about just kind of where you need to be from a PC hardware perspective, if you want to play games that are coming out in 2025. We've had the problem with Monster Hunter Wilds not being particularly well optimized for even high-end older gear. And then we had the problem with Avowed, which in my opinion is not well optimized on AMD Radeon cards. So I wanted to take a look at this game from a performance perspective. So I did that. And I agree with you, DBQ. Are you playing in performance or quality mode on Series X?
I'm playing in performance.
Okay, so you're playing at 4K in performance mode?
No, I'm actually playing in to 1080p. So
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, I would definitely, if you get time, I would definitely appreciate hearing your perspectives on, playing it in 4K and other modes and stuff too.
Yeah, I'll have to swap it in TVs and see. But yeah, no, I'm curious as well, because if I'm really appreciating and enjoying the visuals, I do want to kind of play around with it in 4K to see what it looks like.
Yeah, but overall I agree with you. Like it's just a gorgeous game in terms of its visual presentation. Here I'm playing at 1440p. And when we've had instances also over the last couple of years, going back to Jedi Survivor, which I particularly knocked for, as well as just all of the like performance problems that it had, and frame stutter, in particular having a problem rendering fire and water. That is not a problem in this game. Fire effects, I think, are gorgeous. Water effects are gorgeous. So yeah, I'm having I haven't gotten that deeply into it, but just from a fluidity of combat, I am playing this, like I said, on PC using a PlayStation 5 DualSense controller. And then, like I said, visual renderings, it looks great. Here, like I said, I'm playing at 1440p. Target rate is 115. I do not use dynamic resolution. I didn't see an option for variable shaders in this, which I tried not to ever use anyway. I'm using DLSS in performance mode with frame gen on motion blur and chromatic aberration. RTGI is at diffuse everywhere. My overall preset is high. Ray tracing quality is medium, and hair strands are player only. So right now my temps, both CPU and GPU, are high 50s, low 60s, and I'm getting around 124 frames per second. So and then the bounding range is about down to 109 up to 134. So I've seen a lot of one of the main reasons I wanted to do this PC performance analysis, on that RTX 4070 card, is because I've just seen a lot of crazy stuff. Right? I think now in these times, if you're a PC gamer, you have to look at PC performance analysis for brand new AAA titles coming out. I don't think anymore, unless you're on a 4090, a 5090, or a 5080, I don't think you can casually pick up a AAA big summer blockbuster game and be assured that you're going to have a great experience well over 60 frames per second. I don't think you can make that assumption. I think you need to read a couple performance analyses, and there are problems with the way they're getting done. But the big problem I have is just the overall takeaway summaries that I see coming from some of them is just wackadoodle. One of the first ones that I saw with this was that you couldn't get a good 60 frame per second, above 60 frame per second, like in the 70 frame per second experience out of Assassin's Creed Shadows, unless you were on a 5090, which is just abhorrently untrue. But yeah, DBK, the other question I want to ask you, have you watched Shogun on Hulu?
Only like the initial episode. No, I have not been into it too much. Have you?
I have. In fact, I just kind of recently got done with it, so I binged it. I want to say sometime like fall, winter last year, so it's fairly recent in my memory. And obviously, you don't need to watch a parallel TV show right to enjoy this game. But I will say, having watched it and having that additional background and filler kind of to what goes on in this era, and and I was a history major, so I have some familiarity with Nobunaga and this whole era of time. Even if you just read some Wikipedia entries, I think it enhances your enjoyment of the story and the backdrop, just to kind of understand some of that.
Yeah, they really kind of lay out some of the history, or at least the Nobunaga aspects of it initially, to give you kind of to set up the context of it. That there was a lot of exposition coming into this, more than I expected, actually. But you're right, it does really set the tone and kind of set the world. So I could see where having a greater cultural context and awareness of it really kind of creates a deeper understanding and value in what they've accomplished here.
Yeah, I think the last thing I'll mention from a technical PC perspective is I didn't notice this before, and maybe this isn't the first Assassin's Creed that's done it. But they have taken the Assassin's Creed launcher and done kind of the same thing that the Call of Duty launcher has done, which is now, and it doesn't go back all the way. It in particularly, it incorporates all of the open world RPG like Assassin's Creeds. So now when you go into the launcher,
does it go back to Origins? Like, because I saw Mirage, Valhalla, and Odyssey.
On PC it does.
Okay, so on Xbox maybe I'm seeing something different, but yeah, I think this is the first time because I have jumped in and out of Valhalla, and that was never the case. Like this is very much a Call of Duty type interface in terms of jumping you through. And if you choose one of the other ones, if you have it installed, it launches, and if not, it takes you to the store.
Yeah, so just, I mean, for people who love the Assassin's Creed franchise, and I think despite all the nickel backing that goes on social media, there are actually people who love the Assassin's Creed franchise. You know, if and I'm one of those, so I'm definitely going to go about the business of, I mean, I've gone about the business in the last year of kind of collecting all of the Assassin's Creeds on PC. And I'm definitely gonna, you know, install all of them on that one machine, and you know, and periodically launch right into some others. But yeah, it includes on PC includes Mirage, Origins, Odyssey, Valhalla. I want to say there's one other one that's included as well. Maybe Mirage is the outstanding one, but I want to say it goes back like one tick further. I'm not sure. But yeah, I thought that was pretty interesting as an approach. I mean, and maybe it's the approach towards this Assassin's Creed hub world thing that we heard they were going to be doing.
Right, the rumored kind of, yeah, yep.
So
in terms of,
yeah, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, yeah, in terms of kind of one interface that pulls you into different stories, definitely feels in that kind of vein of you can jump between, and they even have it set like as an actual timeline in terms of where these characters fall within world history. So you can move between them. And yeah, it definitely seeding the ground for continuing to expand in that direction.
Yep, and just on gameplay, just, you know, kind of reinforcing what you said, like one of the things that I love in particular, because again, there's another game that I'm playing that combat is very, I'm not sure what the word is that I wanted to use. It is not fluid. It is very stodgy. It is very you know, pass and pass again, almost like in a fencing kind of format, but without the beauty of like Olympic fencing. Like it's like that. It's medieval combat, and it's very heavy. And this is just combat that again kind of has that beauty of fluidity of motion that I love in, like, you know, games like Spider-Man or other games like that. So and you know, I'm sure at this point everybody's heard about like the difference in the fighting styles. You start here with Yusuke, which I'm sure, you know, Swiss will hear this show and knows that I'm pronouncing it incorrectly. But you know, you're more of a heavyweight brawler type, and then you shift to the ninja and obviously get more of kind of a softer, more elegant combat that is just as deadly. So I haven't gotten into that yet. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it and loving what I've played so far.
Yeah, it is. It really, really drew me in more than I expected. I actually downloaded it and kind of put it off of playing it on the first night, and by the second night loading it up, it just kind of sucked me in, and I've been coming back to it the past 2 days as well. So, yeah, Naue is it's very fluid. The combat is great. The kind of throwing knives that you have give you some distance in terms of range stuff. You know, you don't have, you know, kind of the bird's eye view that you might have had in Odyssey and Origin with a hawk coming over you, but you do have the ability to kind of go into look mode and target people as you're up on perches, so that as you're, you know, trying to kind of stealthily take down a fortress, that you have the ability to kind of mark and get a sense of where the people's levels are at as well. So yeah, I'm really enjoying it and looking forward to playing some more. But I think you're right. The difference between the combat here in terms of the fluidity and maybe your next game are very different in terms of combat styles.
My next game is an entirely different issue altogether. But, before we move on, Tao, any questions or comments on Assassin's Creed Shadows?
Yeah, I had a few questions. One, I guess you kind of, you gave much kind of answered was between the two. Obviously, the samurai is you said he's more of just like a bruiser, right, or like a bully. He's just gonna go in there and just smash stuff. He's no stealth like whatsoever. At least as far as you've seen.
He's your heavy. He can't even kind of climb walls in the same way that you do in other Assassin's Creeds. So yeah, there's definitely some limitations, but some benefits in terms of kind of weight as well.
And then can you switch between the two like anytime you want, or is it more of like it's part of the story, like you'll switch to them when the story says so, or kind of wants you
So
to?
I can't speak to personal experience because I'm not that far yet, but reading through the reviews of it, that there are story specific beats where you need to be certain characters, but then as the game opens up and you are kind of going out into the world, you do have the ability to be either one.
Yeah, my
GTA
uptake
5, just switch to them.
Well, my uptake has been that they like you start with Yusuke, you then have to be Naoe for like a lengthy period of time into the game. And then then you enter like the third phase, like DBQ is saying, where like they deliberately shift you back and forth in chapters and segments of the game. And then you get to a point where it's up to you, right? You're given the choice to flip back and forth eventually.
And then last thing is there, and I don't know if so much in the last one, but is there any like, I guess, educational mode where you can like look up stuff or be in the world and just, wander like kind of like an Origins? And
I haven't
Dynasty did
seen it
those.
yet. I would assume that there would be. If I remember correctly, both the Origins and Odyssey kind of education mode came later as
Okay.
a patch. So yeah, considering the world they've built out, it's certainly and the responsiveness that they've been, even just this week, they did an update patch right before release or post release that prevented damage to kind of ceremonial shrines and pots within it. So it seems like they are being responsive, trying to be culturally sensitive. So it would seem very logical that there would be an education mode kind of factored in here eventually.
And Odyssey and Origins, it definitely without question Mirage. Mirage had something that was almost like a civilopedia. Like you could, because I went in and read lots of things, because I didn't know a great deal of detail about like ancient Persia. And you could go in and read a lot of those things about like locations and proper names of buildings, that were featured in the game. And I seem to remember that a similar thing with Odyssey. So yeah, I guess maybe that will come later. There is DLC planned for this. So, and there's been a Twitter post by the creative team saying, hey, just a reminder, this is just the start, right, for Assassin's Creed Shadows, like the core content. Like we've got a lot of other stuff coming. So, anything else, Tom?
Nope, that's it. Thanks.
Okay, for our third game that we're going to cover in the opening segment, I've been continuing to play through Monster Hunter Wilds. And so again, a bit of tech on this topic. I was originally playing this game on an RTX 30 Ti. That was not a good experience, and I am salty about that, and that's been included in my write-up about tech, because I'm like, a 3080 Ti was a top tier, like top line card, 2 GPU generations ago, and here we are with new titles coming out in 2025. And I'm struggling and tweaking to get a 60 frame per second experience on that. I moved it over to build with an RTX 4070. That is a much better experience. I did pull down the high texture. What is it called again, Tao? I want to say the high texture pack, but it's something. There's a fourth word in there that I'm missing. But at any rate, I did pull that down. I went back in, tweak settings, turn ray tracing on. Did a bunch of other stuff, and I am getting like a 85 frame per second experience. That game looks gorgeous. In fact, in some ways, I feel like there's more detail in the textures than even in Assassin's Creed. but yeah, getting a much better experience. We have talked a lot this year about Avowed and how one of the good things that Avowed does is it doesn't put a lot of administrivia kind of in your windshield. That is not Monster Hunter Wilds. I actually enjoy like the notion of like going into your tent to like cook meals in order to get buffs before you go out on a hunt. That meta I actually kind of like. It actually kind of plays into how long I play, because I'll go in and create things, and then I'll go out on a hunt, and then I might at some point I'm planning on like wrapping up, and then I'll be like, oh no, I have like 30 minutes left in my buff, right? And I'll go out right and do another thing. But and this is kind of a recurring theme with some new games this year. There's a lengthy amount of time that they're taking the controller out of your hand, that cutscenes are really long and drawn out, that there's a lot of exposition. And I get it. Like, I haven't gotten to that bridge point in this game. I guess, the single player campaign is only supposed to be like 15 hours or so long, so that they can get you through it, so they can get you into a point where you're like exploring. But it is a trudge, while that's going on, because you just want to get out and hunt and participate in a lot of the things, in a lot of the parts of the loop that are appealing. But they keep just like cranking you back and forth, right? And making you go in and check with people and, experience a lot of boring things. The progression path, I'm not exactly certain what's going to go on with that. You get a lot of different options in terms of like your armor and your weapons. But like in the armor in particular, like I already have the best armor on that's available, like in the ladder, and I'm in the very early stages of the game. So I'm like, okay, this can't be it. There's got to be something beyond this. And I can't really tell what that is just yet. The last thing I think that I'll mention is the controller scheme is a thing that I find particularly frustrating, and in conjunction with the controller scheme, some of the animations and kinematics in the game. Now, again, I know that part of this is self-inflicted because I'm insisting on playing with Lance, which I understand is like arguably the least popular weapon in Monster Hunter. And one of the ones that's difficult, and one of the ones that that like I said, people just don't use a lot. So knowing that, I'm struggling to stop using it, because I'm like trying to insist on pushing myself through and sticking with it. And I know that it's very powerful in terms of how much damage that it does. So my feeling is that, as I'm taking these monsters down, that it would be taking much longer if I switch to another weapon. But just the way that weapon works is like, there's just not a lot to the animations. Like, half the time it feels like you're just like jabbing the monster, and like the animation moves like 2 millimeters, and like there's like nothing to it. There's not a lot of, and while a singular attack does a lot of damage, there's not a lot on top of that. Like the super moves or whatever don't appear to be like they don't scale up like incredibly from that. Like there's no bonga attack, right? But the other thing is that, and I mentioned this before, and it continues to be frustrating, is like it is like I feel like you're just a tank, and I feel like if the monster moves like more than 5 feet away from you, like you're not getting back within, like, in order for me to close range on it, I have to put the lance back on my back, run over to the monster, take the lance off, right, and start fighting it again. But in most cases, I have to get on the secret and chase the thing down. Like there's just no, it seems like with the lance, like your character like has like no mobility. So I'm struggling through things like that, but probably the biggest thing I'm struggling through is just just what I feel like is the constant nagging of the game. Go talk to this person, go talk to this person. Like Narat going into like this like incredibly long exposition, like 5-paragraph thesis, right, to convey to me that his character's unhappy. And I'm like, dude, I do not care. Just sit over there in the corner, right, so I can go do my thing. I will say the other thing that's probably piquing my level of frustration with all of this is that the game also doesn't tell you a lot. And I get it. I'm not a Monster Hunter person. They're expecting you to know a lot of things. But I mean, great Scott, like I don't remember being taught how to open up the map, lay a waypoint, get on the secret, and then just let the secret go to like the waypoint. And I know that's supposed to be a big thing, and for some people it's like not a popular design choice because some older Monster Hunter players feels like it takes away some of the exploration and stuff. But in the initial part of the game, that's done for you. But very quickly thereafter, it's not. And without you being taught how to do it, like I went off on a hunt, like trying to get to the forest, like, and that's all the description of it. Like, it's just called go to the forest. And I'm like, what forest? Where? Like, where is it on the map? What is the icon that designates like where your next story campaign level object? Like all those simple basic things, like they don't teach you. And I'm like, that's like the quality of life stuff that like is really frustrating because of like it's impacting my gameplay. Like I'm losing time in sessions, like trying to figure out like little hash and trash like that. So, and then like I said, and then the control scheme sometimes gets particularly wackadoodle. One of the problems with the lance is if you hit the wrong button and you put the lance on your back, it's just this degradation do loop, right? It's like you screw a thing up and then like getting back to it just unravels right from there, right? You screw one thing up and then you screw three things up and then like you're not fighting the monster and you're losing time and like you're losing life. I will say that's another basic thing that I don't remember the game explaining to me, but the whole thing of like your life meter and stamina, like the first couple of hunts I went out on, I was like, what in the world is going on? And then suddenly like a memory kicked in from like Monster Hunter Worlds when I first learned that system. I was like, oh, that's right. There's this stamina thing. And then like, if you run out of that, then like, your attacks aren't effective and blah, blah, blah. I didn't, they didn't teach you at any point how to take like a mega life potion from like the back of the secret, which is huge, right? Because again, with the lance, you have no mobility. So if you're low on life, you're not getting away from the monster unless you call the Tauntaun, right? And then if you're on the Tauntaun and you don't know how to take a potion from the back of the Tauntaun, then you have to like jump off the Tauntaun, take the potion, get back on. Like it's just, it's problematic. But I mean, it's the golf swing mentality, right? It's like when it vibes, like, and it's great. And the accomplishment, like when I take down a monster, like all of a sudden I'm suddenly forgiving of like the last hour of frustration that I've just had. But yeah, that's my experience in Monster Hunter Wilds right now. But key thing is I've gotten over the performance problem by moving it to, a current gen, or I guess horribly, I now have to say what is now even a last gen card by being on a 4000 series GPU. And that alleviated a lot of the frustration that I was having with the game. But I'll continue struggling and muddling through it. Any questions on that, guys?
No, I'm sympathizing with the clunkiness of the combat sometimes, but also I think I really am appreciating the fact that you're kind of monster hunting your way through it, right? Like knowing that there are good pieces in there and trying to figure out where you find that for yourself, and to see where that balance comes.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, I'm just sitting here thinking through it. I'm like, I'm hating coming to that decision point, but I'm feeling like I'm gonna have to change weapons because I can't see going through the entirety of the campaign with the lance. Like I know I'm gonna face bigger monsters. I know I'm gonna face things that like you have to mount the monster. I feel like I know I'm gonna hit this inflection point where I'm gonna have to have some more fluidity in combat, and some better ability to like dodge. So, but I don't know. We'll see. I
was just going to ask, do you remember what you ran as a weapon in the last iteration of Monster Hunter that you played? Because I don't remember if you played Rise. I know you played World.
I played a little bit of World and a little bit of Rise. I don't remember, but I think with those, I just use like the default, right, that they recommended. I don't think I've ever, I mean, I will say this is the instance where I have spent the most time exploring and just fighting like different types of monsters and going through that progression arch, but also like actually paying attention to like my gear and weapons and making conscious deliberate choices. I think I was just kind of the subject to the tyranny of the default in the other games before. Okay, let's go on and move on to the news segment, and we will start by continuing to talk about Assassin's Creed. First news story over on Destructoid by Bernardo Viana. Assassin's Creed Shadows topples one franchise classic, but the series' final boss still looms. During Assassin's Creed this is a couple days time late, and we'll kind of walk the dog through kind of all the things that have unfolded over the weekend. So we start back on Thursday, late Thursday after the game initially launched. Assassin's Creed Shadows has only been available for a few hours, but is already proving to be a successful launch based on its player numbers. During pre-sale, AC Shadows broke several sales records, including climbing to the top of the Steam top sellers chart. Just a few days ago, it was in second place, but now it's the best-selling game on Steam. The game has also topped sales charts on various platforms in Japan, fitting given that it's set there. As we progress on throughout the weekend, we then get to a follow-on news story over on Engadget by Cheyenne McDonald. Assassin's Creed Shadows has reached 2 million players, Ubisoft says. It has surpassed the launches of AC Origins and Odyssey. Assassin's Creed Shadows may be shaping up to be the hit Ubisoft needed on social media. The Assassin's Creed team announced that the game, which was released on Thursday, has so far drawn in 2 million players. Assassin's Creed Shadows was originally slated to come out last fall, but was delayed twice as developers worked to further polish the game and try to ensure everything would be running smoothly on day one. This was as of Saturday at 5:30 p.m. on the East Coast. Now, since this was posted, the additional word that I've seen come across is that in terms of concurrent users on Steam, it is now eclipsed AC Origins and Odyssey. I can't remember which one of those two was the top, but it was the top at like 63,000 or maybe 65,000, like 0.83. And AC Shadows has eclipsed that by like a very small margin, like 61,000, 100 and something. And so I think the main tail of the tape for me here is that this was a game that, according to lots of people, well, I shouldn't say that. There's been a multi-vector tide of negative uptake on this game. Some of one faction has nothing whatsoever to do with the game's mechanics or the quality of the game itself, but are based on, I'll just be direct and blunt, just based on issues prompted by race and diversity. There's been another faction that is just kind of, in my opinion, I will say, part of the standard Ubisoft Nickelback crowd, which is, that people don't like Ubisoft games, or the group of people that doesn't like the open world Assassin's Creed type of games. And then somewhere in there's a third faction that'll probably hit me later. But according to all of those factions, this game had no hopes for success and was going to be received poorly. That appears to not be the case. There's lots of stuff out there about the concurrent users on Steam don't mean anything. I don't believe that's true. And a lot of people who are trying to, who are hyper focused on pulling the metrics apart and extrapolating whether or not there's anything clearly that can be said about sales and how many people are playing it via Ubisoft Plus versus buying it. And I'm like, look, right now, today, it's like literally 72 hours since this game launched. I don't care. Like in a month, we're going to have Steam revenue numbers, right? In a month, we're going to have NPD charts. We're going to have all of the sales data that we normally have. Today, all I care about, me personally, is that there are a bunch of people who said this game was going to be a failure, and that is apparently not the case, because more than some zero people apparently have interest in playing this game. I don't know, your guys' thoughts on the topic?
Yeah, I mean, there's great numbers, right? And if this is, and in some ways, this is pent up. It is both a good release window for it in terms of not a whole lot of big game coming out right now to compete with it, and also kind of the pent up anticipation of a game that was supposed to launch last fall, then was supposed to launch in February, then now in March, and it's also been a longer development cycle, or at least in between releases between this and Valhalla, that it's been 4 years probably between the two. And it's also one that, I mean, I almost feel like it's a sigh of relief to some degree, because Ubisoft, and I thought this playing it, like thinking about the quality of the game that I'm experiencing and knowing how much Ubisoft has riding on this and the struggles that they've had with some of their other big name releases over the last year, as we were talking about X Defiant last week. Like, yeah, I think that speaks really well to hopefully the success of this game for Ubisoft and the franchise.
And those are good points, right? The last two big Ubisoft releases. I'm not going to say the last two because great Scott, it's surely, very likely that Ubisoft released a game or two that I can't even mention, right? But their last two big plays, right? Star Wars Outlaws and X Defiant, those games failed, right?
Sure, and if you go back one more, you get the Prince of Persia game, which they disbanded the team. So, yeah, you've got 3 within last year that really struggled.
Yeah, and so like I said, lots of people are pointing to, oh well, you can't, 2 million people doesn't mean 2 million sales. Concurrent user numbers on Steam, don't mean anything. And I'm like, guys, you need to look at the context of the current state of the industry, right? And what we're looking at is 2 million people playing it when Veilguard barely got to 1 million people, thereby having EA call that a failure, thereby EA moving that game into subscription services faster than they had intended. That is the rubric. Like this notion of trying to take every metric and compare it against the most sterile clinical metric that could ever be obtained. Like, that's not the world we live in anymore. Like, you're not going to get sales data within the first 72 hours. And I've said this, many times, right? Like, don't take the initial metric data that you get on a single player game, right, in the first 30 days as indicative of success or failure. So my thing is, I'm not saying that this means that it is unquestionably a success. I'm saying that the game could have done significantly worse. Right? And so indicators that we have today, which are the only indicators that we have that are available, are positive. Right? I don't know, Tao, any thoughts?
I mean, I think it was a safe bet, to be honest with you, that this Assassin's Creed was going to do pretty well just because of the subject matter. The samurai ninja that always usually does pretty good. And yeah, just because it has samurai ninja doesn't mean it's gonna do good. But I think with Ubisoft, for good or for bad or worse, they have their tent poles. Like Assassin's Creed is one of their tent poles. Like they're going to work on this game, especially with this one. I think Mirage was kind of like wasn't one on the main line, I guess, like Assassin's Creed, right? But even that one did really well. But, this was going to be like one of their major releases for, well, technically it's supposed to be last year, but this year, and they're going to work there, and obviously they held it back a couple times, so that shows you right there that they wanted to, and obviously they could have done that too because of what happened with the Outlaws and with these other games, X Defiant. But I think in general, like these Assassin's Creed games always do well, no matter how many how much people want to moan about it, and it's just another Assassin's Creed. It's the same thing every year. Same thing says about Call of Duty. Call of Duty's gangbusters every year too, for the most part. I think this is for better or for worse. Ubisoft, this is Assassin's Creed. This is their Call of Duty. This is going to be they're going to work their butts off on this game and try to make it as the best game they can. And even going back to those other games, maybe except for X Defiant, Star Wars Outlaws, there's a lot of praise for that I saw online. It's always just these vocal minorities, people that are like, oh, this game sucks. And yeah, it did have issues, here and there. And unfortunately the sales weren't the best, but I did see a lot of positivity toward that game. Probably more so than all the negativity that I saw. Same thing. Well, I shouldn't say same thing with what was the other one? Prince of Persia. Like everybody seemed to love that game, but unfortunately, Ubisoft didn't think so. So I mean, that was on their end. So I don't know what the workings behind the scenes were with that, but from people who played it and from reviewers and stuff, people actually in the media, they love that game. So it's I don't know. It's just like a weird time that we live in right now. So which I guess you could say about a lot of things, but it's just weird.
Yeah, and last thing I mentioned is, when I, reposted, right, the numbers indicating, trending towards success for the game. I had one person who responded about like a big stock sell off on Ubisoft like the same week. I'm like, look, I mean, you could disagree with me if you want to, but like in my opinion, like just despite like the popular opinion, the fate of Ubisoft was never riding on this game. Like one title was not going to sway the winds greatly on whether or not Ubisoft was going to be dissolved or sell off IP or whatever. That is a completely different negotiation. What in my opinion, this game will do or could do is reinforce the strength of the Guillermo's brothers' negotiating position and negotiating strength when they go to the table. Right, when they go to the table, depending on what they're trying to do, if they're trying to sell the Assassin's Creed series or if they're trying to retain control of it. Either way, success does well for them on that one particular topic. They can say, hey, we stuck our hands in and we were involved with the Montreal studio. We gave them coaching and mentoring. This proves that we still got it, right? That we can still read the market. We had our governance boards, right, reviewed where they were. We were the ones who said this thing needs to be delayed an additional 3 or 4 months or whatever. They can assert that they were part of that formula. By the same token, if that's one of the IPs that they decide that they're going to sell, then again, they can sell it from a negotiating position of strength, right? Instead of a position of weakness. That's all that it was ever going to do. Like it wasn't like Assassin's Creed was going to come out and be some great success. And oh my God, like the entire fate of Ubisoft was going to turn around and like they're going to, so I don't know. All right, let's go on to the second news story, which is on Utah.
Yes. So this is from GameIndustryBiz.com, or sorry, GameIndustry.biz, from Sophie McAvoy. So we had the Game Developers Choice Awards of 2025 this past week, I believe, on Wednesday, and Balatro was the big winner of that one. It won Game of the Year and also won Best Debut along Best Design and Innovation Award. So I had a few awards there. It was a big winner, so I'm glad to see that. We also had Astrobot winning a couple of awards here for audio and the technology categories, and Black Myth Wukong receive an award for the best visual art. A couple other ones here. Metaphor ReFantasio won for best narrative, along with Life is Strange Double Exposure winning for Social Impact Award. And then we had Lifetime Achievement Award being held out or being given to the creative directorate from Remedy. That's Mr. Sam Lake, along with Lucas Pope was given the Pioneer Award for his contributions to game development. And he was the creator of Papers, Please and Return of the Obra Dinn, which I actually always wanted to get around to playing the Return of the Obra Dinn. Probably Papers, Please too, but I like this. And he was also a part of Naughty Dog, which I don't know if I didn't realize, or maybe I just forgot. And it's been a while since he's been there. So yeah, those are the big winners from this year's GDCA 2025 winners. Anything of a surprise for you guys on this one? I was kind of surprised Balatro won, to be honest with you, but I'm glad to see that one took the top spot for this year.
Just positive vibes, Metaphor ReFantasio for Atlas, which some of their advertising that I hear on podcasts is that this is their first foray into the AAA RPG space, which caused me to kind of cock my head to the side. And I'm like, Persona 5? Like, I don't know that I would, but at any rate, good on the smaller studio, right? Relatively speaking, not the size of, Bungie or Naughty Dog. So good on them getting up there, and good to see Life is Strange being awarded with all of the problems that have gone on, with that studio, and just the general way that I feel like the commercial uptake on those games doesn't match, obviously, their critical uptake and their awards. So just good to see them continuing to get recognized for those stories.
Yeah, closed down not too long after that, or was that a different one of the different
The
studios?
Deck 9 one? I don't
I thought I
remember
saw
if
something
it
about a
did.
Life is Strange studio being shut, or maybe it was like former Life is Strange people in a studio. I don't know. I thought that was something that.
Yeah, I don't think they got shut down. And I'm not the best historian on this one, but there's a whole thing where like the IP shifted to like a different developer does it than the original
Yeah.
studio. And that I think that new studio is the one that had like the like things that were like fascists were like sneaking into like the code and things like that. So that studio had problems.
So, but Deck 9 is so it's not the Bloom and Rage studio. This is there's a news story from early in December about significant layoffs at Deck 9 and from a number of places, GameIndustry.biz, and then I've got a Kotaku article from this week that the headline from Ethan Gatch of "No one was around to collect Life is Strange Double Exposures Award for social impact." So yes, I don't know if it's a completely closed studio or if it just had significant layoffs to the staff at the end of 2024.
Okay. Next news story in the rundown. This story over on Hot Hardware by Alan Velasco. Microsoft slips Steam integration for Xbox UI in blockbuster leak. Let me first say, opening a billion doors with Xbox is a much better ad copy and slogan than every screen is an Xbox. Xbox seems to be full steam ahead in forging a new path for its future in the gaming space. An image within a recent blog post got the gaming world buzzing about what that future might look like. And it was an image the company didn't necessarily want anyone to see, as it was quickly pulled down after The Verge inquired about it. That image contained what appears to be an early look at an updated Xbox app UI running across a variety of devices. Zooming in reveals a detail not seen in any prior versions of the UI, which is a tab labeled Steam. The tab is located within the game library as a way to filter and more easily find something to play. It hints at the possibility of being able to use the Xbox app to launch games from Steam without having to close the app and switch over to Steam. This move would make things much more convenient for players. So before I rain and poo-poo all over this, Tal, I'll let you start with your impressions from this news story.
I mean, I don't. I guess there could be something, since obviously they took the image down right away. But until I guess something's official, I'm not even gonna kind of speculate on anything. So I'm sure it was just probably a boo boo, but we'll see.
If this were available on PC, would this be something that you would use?
I don't know, because I don't know what I don't know why I would do that, to be honest with you, and maybe you can enlighten me or us on that, because it kind of doesn't make sense if it was on PC.
Unless you have a pretty active kind of friends base within Xbox where you'd be, getting into chats and parties that way. I could see the benefit of that, but yeah, I like the idea of it, of pulling things in, but we've seen this in other types of launchers before. Is it simply just a link that's going to push you into launching Steam and then going to that game, or is it really truly integration as well?
Yeah, so there's lots of different things. So I think there is the possibility that some new PC gaming demographic, right, and new gamers coming fresh into the space, that this might be effective for them. I think the thing you mentioned is an interesting aspect, right? If you're, today we live in a Steam-centric world, right? On PC, that's just a reality. Like I'm not really particularly going to have an argument with anybody about that. Like the numbers and the quantitative evidence, the objective evidence is there, right? And so it's weird to me to to prop the Xbox app up as a thing that would subordinate Steam, because it would vastly be the other way around. there are other nits with this, like the fact that this is already being done and has been done before. It's not new. You can add non-Steam games to your Steam library. You can add non-GOG games to GOG Galaxy. You can add games to Discord and launch them from Discord. The way it works on PC is, I mean, there are alternative solutions from a UI perspective. Like you can use fences, which I use on Windows, just to simply group and block I group and block all of my launchers right in one fence, and then group all of my game icons in another fence. The way this works on PC, and this is why I kind of stutter stepped at this notion of hinting at the possibility of being able to use the Xbox app to launch games from Steam without having to close the app and switch over to Steam. You don't have to do that now. Like you can have multiple launchers open and launch, like I can have Steam, Epic, and the Xbox app open, and then launch a game from Steam, and I don't have to close any of the other apps. The other thing is this also already happens on Xbox to a certain extent, and any other launcher, Epic Game Store, because if you are going to launch an EA game or an Ubisoft game from the Epic Game Store or the Xbox app, it is going to kickstart the companion app, right, and force that thing to launch before your game launches. And that functionality isn't going to change, right? Unless Microsoft is able to strong arm some completely different way of entirely doing business, right, in the PC gaming space. So there's a lot of exuberance over this that I don't quite track and understand as equating to like the reality in the PC space. What this may or may not herald for like the future Xbox and like the actual Xbox handheld and all those types of things, like that potential and possibility, those things are great, right? My feeling is like, well, let's wait and see, because we don't know what that implementation is going to be or how smooth it's going to work. This notion of using the Xbox app to aggregate game tiles in a single screen, it's a dubious premise to me, because like of all of the launchers that I have available on PC, the Xbox app is the last one that I would foresee. Like, and that's just a commentary on like.
Wait, hold on. You're saying you take EA's launcher over the Xbox launcher?
No, but what I will absolutely say is, I mean, today I have to have the EA launcher open to launch a game that I bought on Xbox anyway, or that I'm accessing via like Game Pass, which I'm not subscribed to Game Pass now, but if I was, right, that's what I have to launch. And yes, I do, like, because that happens, I just open up the EA app, right? I don't bother launching it within the Xbox app, right? So, but yes, I would put that further. I would still put the EA app further down the road, but I definitely wouldn't put it over Steam or Epic or GOG Galaxy. And so in that ways, it seems like the fear and concern that I have is because Microsoft does this all the time. Microsoft often tries. I'm not saying they're going to try and do this with the Xbox, but what I'll say I don't want on PC is I don't want Microsoft, and I'll put it on Microsoft, not on Xbox. I don't want Microsoft forcing a way down my throat to drive me to operate in a different paradigm than what I already have established. Like for me personally, like I don't need this. Like I know, like I'm an adult. I know how to open Steam, and I know how to open the Epic Games Store, and I know how to open GOG Galaxy. I do not need your help. And in fact, on Windows, like for me, this is kind of just like we mentioned with games. This is putting an additional thing in my windshield that is not helpful to me. It's a bother. So, it's interesting. We'll see where it goes. Like I said, I just like there's a lot of exuberance that is acting like this is like new and innovative. And I'm like, what? There are also open source alternatives for this as well. And again, this is kind of one of those things that I'm like, if there was a market for this, then somebody would have filled it already, right? And then on Windows, my other feeling is like this is something Microsoft has been talking about doing since like Windows 7. Like the game bar was like, and I don't know if you remember, but like back on Windows 7 was when we got like you would install a game and there was like a default option to that the operating system would try and follow to put the game in a folder called games. And so that's been there for a while, but like to me, Microsoft should have done this a long time ago. I get why they probably haven't, because it starts to smell like 2000 Internet Explorer antitrust, right? So I get that, but I also feel like this is a vacuum that Steam has filled a long time ago, and I'm like trying to wrench it out of Steam's hands just seems crazy to me. Any other comments before we move on to the next story?
I was just, when they're saying how like if you could open like a Steam library on Xbox, I could see that being a benefit, and I think you said that too. But I don't know what benefit Valve would have in doing something like that. Like it doesn't make any sense to me. So I don't know even why you would even think that. But most people are like, oh yeah, you can do that on Xbox, which makes sense, yeah. But it just doesn't make any business sense going the other way. Like what benefit would Valve have to doing like, other than just being gamer friendly, I guess, like user friendly, but which they usually seem to be. But that just seems a little bit too like beyond, far and beyond like what they'd want to do. So I don't know.
There are edge cases where like I smell some whiffs of it making sense. Like if the next Xbox is a hybrid Xbox and it potentially creates this, I've theorized that like there's this space that they're aiming for where we used to have things, where we used to have the Commodore 64, the VIC-20, the Atari ST, or an Amiga, the Coleco Atom, right? There used to be this kind of in-between space, like in between, like that was like kind of like an Uber console, like mini PC, but not like a full-blown Tandy, right? 1000. And if they're striking for that space and they're going to start like cultivating like this new kind of hybrid PC user, like this high-end console, low-end PC user, then maybe that's a space where Steam would see some benefit in partnering with them, because for those consumers, maybe the Xbox app is more comfortable for them, than going full-blown native Steam. Maybe, but but that's a box that's also going to be definitely more than $500, right? Probably more than $700. And so it's very small, but it could, but if you license that box to Lenovo, Asus, Acer, right? You could create this additional cottage industry, which could, if Steam is going this way, could feed on each other, right? And create competition. I just don't know if that's the way it's going. I feel much more so this is Microsoft saw what Steam was doing when the Legion Go S launched at CES, and it was much more so of old Microsoft. I forget what they used to call it. Embrace, extend, extinguish. It was much more that old mentality, that when they saw the Legion Go, right, went to Lenovo and said, hey, if you guys are doing this with Steam, why would you guys not do this with us? So I don't know. We'll see how it goes, I guess. Moving on to the next news story, which I will cover very quickly. I did just want to make mention, because I think it's a good thing for people to know. This story over on Engadget, Microsoft's Xbox Adaptive Joystick is now available by Lawrence Bach. Microsoft just announced that its Xbox Adaptive Joystick is now available for purchase directly from the company. This news comes during the annual Ability Summit. The Adaptive Joystick is designed for people with limited mobility, so it has 4 customizable button inputs on the front and 2 more mappable bumper and trigger style buttons. It also comes with a standard thumbstick. It costs $30, which is cheaper than the official wireless Xbox controller. I didn't know about the price. I just wanted to mention that because for me, with like latent, subtle carpal tunnel syndrome, as we get older, I suspect that eventually I will have to flip over to an adaptive controller. And I wanted to get the information out there for other people who might have need of an adaptive joystick. Next news story is on Utah.
Yeah, we have some numbers which we like to cover every once in a while. These are for the U.S. For February. And Monster Hunter Wilds has topped the February charts here, along with being the best-selling game of 2025 so far. The action RPG secure the top spot on PlayStation and Xbox's individual platform charts. More than half of its sales being accounted on Steam. According to Circana, The launch month sales of Monster Hunter Wilds are more than double. I think we already talked about this. Double the amount of Rise. Number 2 that came in was Warhorse Studios' Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. Came in second, ranking at the same spot on PS and Xbox charts. And that was more than 5 times higher than the original Kingdom Come Deliverance when it launched in February of 2018. I'm going to jump a little bit past the regular charts here. I'll go through those here in a second. Mobile side, we have Monopoly Go at the top spot still, with Last War Survival coming at number 2, followed by Roblox, which Last War just kicked down. And then talking through some of the quotes here, I'm going to skip over just this one from Sensor Tower's Samuel Anyun. He's talking about that Last War Survival, but his next quote is also of note are the 2 Pokemon games, Pokemon TCG Pocket and Pokemon Go, are on the top 10 for mobile. This is the first time that 2 games with the same IP, although different publishers, have made the top 10 at the same time. An impressive feat. Yes, very impressive, but not surprising. Looking at U.S. consumer spending for February, it fell 6% year over year to $4.5 billion. So kind of noting that spending so far this year is 11% lower than at the same time in 2024 at $9 billion. So a little bit less. And then just to jump down to the top 10, I'll just do the top 10. They have the top 20 here. Monster Hunter number 1, Kingdom Come number 2, Civilization 7 number 3, PGA Tour 2K25 number 4. And those are all new titles for that month. Number 5, NBA 2K25. 6 is Black Ops 6. Call of Duty Black Ops 6. Number 7, Avowed, which is new to the charts. Number 8, another new one, Like a Dragon Pirate Yakuza in Hawaii. Number 9, Grand Theft Auto 5, still staying in there. And then number 10 is Madden NFL 25. And I'll shout out Minecraft, which came out at a number 11, still out there too. Any surprises or anything with the numbers for February that you guys see? Or anything in the top 20, if I didn't call it out?
No, I mean, Monster Hunter Wilds came out at the very last week in February, and it's not a surprise to see it hit number 1. I think the more surprising one for me is PGA Tour hitting number 4 because it released that same week. It had an early release for the deluxe version the week before, but really only a week or so that it was released in February. So I think that's a good sign for that franchise as well.
And along with you, DBQ, I was one of the people that helped it reach that marker. We don't have time to talk about that together, but definitely at a future date, I'm putting a pin on when to have a talk with you about PGA Tour.
That sounds good. Yep, still playing some of that. Yep.
Okay, anything else, Tom? Okay, I will just mention this other news article over on Tom's Hardware. NVIDIA RTX 5060 Ti final specs and launch day allegedly leak. This news story by Anton Shilov. According to a well-known hardware leaker, WXNOD, NVIDIA and graphics card makers will reportedly release the GeForce RTX 5060 Ti graphics cards on April 16th at 9 p.m. to compete against the best graphical cards. Meanwhile, Video Cards has allegedly received and published the final specifications of NVIDIA's first mainstream Blackwell-based GPUs today. Keep in mind that the information does not come from official sources, so take it with a grain of salt. Additionally, I want to say it's not in this article, but I think the 5060, not Ti, will then launch mid-May. So it's kind of interesting. It occurred to me as I was kind of thinking through this inverse rollout, right? Because we've seen the high-end cards come out, and then I want to say the low-end cards come out, and then like the mid-stream cards come out. But going back in history, it used to always be like the core, XX80, XX70, and XX60 cards. And of course, over time, it's always the XX60 cards that wind up being the most popular. It's curious to me in this rollout, and I wonder if this is indicative of NVIDIA trying to move people up the value stream, because they knew if they launched with the 60 and 60 Ti right off the bat, that like tons of people would have just gone for those and not bothered with like a 70 series card. So it's interesting, but my main thing is for people, for what I think is the bulk of the market who will want these 60 and 60 Ti cards, particularly the 60 Ti 16 gig is a particularly lucrative target for gamers, for games that are coming out VRAM challenged and running on the UE5 engine. that they'll find these particularly appealing, and those cards should become available as we start heading into the summer. Any comments on that, guys? Okay, let's go ahead and push on through segment 3 and go into our final rundown of other games that we've been playing. Tal, I'll let you start with Avowed.
Yeah, after not playing it the previous week and talking about not playing it, I jumped back in it like the first few days of last week. Just jumped back into still. I went back into Parodies like I had mentioned because I was getting my butt kicked in the Emerald Stair. Kind of finishing that off. I believe finally now. There's a couple of quests that I found in it's like the higher end kind of class, I guess, of the big city there, which I don't think I had really explored before. I just very little, so I was doing some quests there, and I got a couple more that I just got to finish out, and then hopefully jump back into the Emerald Stair. I think I'm pretty well powered up now that I shouldn't hopefully not have too much problems with those areas that I was having issues with at the kind of the beginning of that level or that part of the map. There was one shop, or well, I guess it wasn't really a shop. It's almost looked like a museum where I didn't realize at first that there's like stuff in cases, like artifacts and stuff like that, but you can read each of those. And I was like, oh, wow, that's pretty cool, actually. So I sat there for like a half hour just reading all those, the little descriptions on, each case. So that was pretty cool. And I think that led me to, I think one of the last, side quests that I'm on right now, hopefully for that, I shouldn't say hopefully, but that I'm on for that part of the city. So I'll do that. I just thought it was kind of a cool little thing that they kind of put in there that, you've seen that before in other games where there's, cases of stuff, but each one you can go in and read. So that's kind of cool. Just kind of learning the lore of the world. So I've just kind of been doing that so far.
Yeah, not a ton to add. Mostly topics from the performance perspective. Like I said, I got my RTX 4070 that was in the other box working, so I was able to get back to Avowed on that card, which is just a world of difference experience than playing that on Radeon. So I was very pleased. I'm not sure if you guys have done this side mission, but I like took down like there's an ogre in the cave mission, I think associated with a faction that you have some relationships with on a side mission. So
I think it's one of the bounties in the Emerald Stair, or it's you kind of, I stumbled across him trying to get to one of the metal shards, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, I did too. I didn't do it from there. I just kind of hit it when I was exploring, and then he gave it to me when I went to the bounty board. So it was good.
Yeah, so I did that. Again, very rewarding getting through that. I would have probably struggled with that with some of the performance problems I was having on the Radeon card. So it just continues to be enjoyable, continues to have a nice, pleasant progression arc working through it. So it was pretty fun. Next thing in the rundown for me is I've gone back and continued to play through some Dynasty Warriors Origins. Continue to have fun with this, although this is not, my core type of game. I'm definitely guilty at throwing a lot of hate on this game about it just being gratuitous, like, kung fu fighting, with no elegance and no, skill required. And so certainly not a Souls game, right? Far distance from that. But there are some interesting things like in this sequence here in particular. I hit a couple points where when you hit a parry with these enemy generals, like it's just huge, right? The amount of damage you're able to do on a counterattack. It is a kind of I forget the term that I saw for this. I want to say it's like a sensationalist fighting game, or like spectacle fighter. That's the term that I saw for it. And that's what it is. Like I said, I've given a lot of comments tonight about just like loving games that have that fluidity of combat again, referencing Spider-Man and now Assassin's Creed and things. And that's kind of what this game is. But I'm having a ton of fun with it. There are also some tactical items with it, as you see the mini map in the lower right hand corner, just kind of figuring out on the battlefield where you need to be And then, the small amount of kind of like maze finding that there is through, like, 'cause sometimes it's very difficult to figure out how to get where you're supposed to be. We won't show it tonight, but like on this particular map, like I attacked with the Eastern Force and then attacked with the Western Force and then left them and cut horizontally across the map to rendezvous with the Central attacking force in this area outside like the main gate into the castle, and helped them out, took some of these generals down. Then as that smaller force was going in through the main gate, through the battering ram that you saw earlier, I went back and rendezvoused with that Western force, and we scaled a wall. And so I was attacking from actually behind enemy lines, right, and crunching them in between the main attacking force coming up here through the center. And so that created like some tactical advantages. So playing that kind of meta game in here has been enjoyable as well. And I guess I've got the next one too with Kingdom Come Deliverance. That was the game that I was really talking about, where I felt like the combat was a little clunkier and not as graceful, and it's like way more timing based. And unlike Avowed, like that, like stamina does impact you much more frequently. Like the do loop is a lot tighter in terms of when you run out of energy and have to back out and rest. But in general, that game it's not as bad as Monster Hunter Wilds, and it's certainly more entertaining than Monster Hunter Wilds because the scripting is a lot more kind of bantery and witty, very kind of English/European humor. But there's a ton of it, right? It's telling a story, right? In the opening segments of Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, it's a little kind of Avengers kind of humor, like not slapstick, but just like I said, that banter back and forth between the two main characters, and that's supposed to be kind of part of the charm of the game. But like 3.5 hours into it, like I've done stealth and like some very, very basic combat. I'm just not hitting the meat where you're in combat a lot, right? And that's just causing me to feel like, do I want to play Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 right now, or do I want to play Dynasty Warriors, right, where I know I'm going to get like a bunch of combat, or do I want to play like I know that there's a rewarding experience there, but I'm just having to dig past, right, and through so much to get to it in the ramp up. But by the same token, it doesn't have like it doesn't have the surmount, that you have to go through of onboarding, right, that Monster Hunter Wilds does. But it's just so much story, like kind of put in your face to get through. But at least it's funny, right, as I'm going through it. Tao, you have been playing Marvel Rivals?
Yeah. Quick question for Kingdom Come. Did you play the first one?
I did not. No,
you didn't. Okay, I just wanted to know if there's any kind of story progression at all between the two, because I was kind of interested on Deliverance 2, but I kind of like to go in order if I can. So.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, the sense of it that I have is there's been zero references to anything that went on before, so I feel like this is an entirely different story, but I don't know.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I'll have to look that up. All right. So yeah, I just jumped back in Marvel Rivals pretty big actually this past week. I played a little bit of Call of Duty 2 still at the beginning of the week, kind of throughout the week actually. But I was jumping back into Marvel Rivals, just playing still season 1, and just playing through all the new characters, Fantastic Four. So I've actually started to go through, and I started off because it's like in the character selection screen, it's tanks or whatever they're called now, Vanguard or whatever there is in this game. The DPS strategist, I can't even remember what it was, but DPS, and then the healers at the bottom. So I'm kind of going through each group and kind of playing a little bit of more of the other characters that I haven't really played. So I think I mentioned I played some Magic and Namor last week. So I was playing some other people. I played Magneto, which I hadn't played at all, very little of. For the tanks, played a little bit more of the Hulk, which I had played at the beginning because he's kind of one of my favorite characters. And then I kind of just was playing everybody else and kind of fell off of him, but started playing him a lot more. In the DPS, I'm trying to remember, besides Magic, There was a little bit of Hawkeye that I've been playing. He's fairly good, but he's pretty weak. Like if you have people start focus on you, because he's while his like abilities aren't like the best, they're still fairly powerful. Like he's kind of like a sniper-ish kind of a character. So when you're hitting them, you kind of just have to sit in the back and just hit people because you really want to jump in there and into the fray because you'll get taken out pretty quickly. Kind of what like Black Widow too, although I haven't tried her yet because she's just a pure sniper. That's her gun. She has a sniper gun, so that's what she does. But I've been doing that, and then I played a little bit of Mantis also, which I tried her like at the very beginning, and I just couldn't wrap my hand around her abilities. But now that I've played it, just played the game overall a little bit more. I'm playing her now too. She's actually fairly good, so I've been enjoying her too. So just trying out a little bit more characters and trying to you know just trying to get used to everybody else instead of only concentrating on like one on each kind of category. So if somebody picks that person, then I'm not screwed and I'm playing somebody I don't know. So just trying to at least get like two or three in each group to get down. So I'm enjoying it though. I think there's like another month or so, three weeks left in this season. So we'll jump into the next season fairly soon here. So hopefully get some new characters and maps to play on.
DBQ, are you playing this too?
Nope. I dabbled in it a little bit. My son plays it, so I'm familiar with it in terms of his conversations, but no, I'm not playing it.
So, Tao, I know we're getting pressed for time, but I do want to ask you one question. So my prediction for the MCU had always been like the moment when I saw them reaching for B tier and C tier characters, I was like, okay, we're on the glide slope down, right? There's a lot of hullabaloo about like the greatness of like the Marvel stable, but I'm like, okay, right. But once you get outside that core, like, the moment I see a Squirrel Girl television show, right, I know it's over, right? My question on
Stiltman movie, maybe.
So, for the game, and the game's a little different, right? Squirrel Girl's already in the game, right? But but the thesis of the question is still the same. Now we've got Mantis in, which I do not think of as an A tier character, right? Little gravitas there, right? Because in the MCU, but like, I mean, are they reserving enough? Because Daredevil's not in the game yet, right?
So no, he's not in the game yet. Yeah.
Do you feel like they're reserving enough of like the big names, or do you think that this game lives or dies on the ability to? And there are B tier characters out there that would still be like great to show up in Marvel Rivals. Like if you bring in a Hyperion or you bring in a Gladiator, right? You have a season where you bring in the whole Shi'ar guard, right? That could be huge. Do you think the game lives or dies on that, or do you think there's little dependency on like big names, big power names, and the game can go on just fine, bringing in right some of the lower tier characters as long as there's new characters being introduced?
Yeah, I think as long as their that power set is good, like you would think Mantis. That's the one thing I kind of don't like about this game. It's like, why is Mantis a healer? Why is Cloak and Dagger a healer? Well, Cloak and Dagger are kind of high healer DPS, characters. If you start to think about it too much, it's like none of this makes sense. Then you got to remember it's just a game. So all right, so that you'll get that past that. But if they can get these lower tier characters in here and have a good move set, I don't think it really matters as long as they plays well and it's balanced, which pretty much like the game actually does feel pretty well balanced. Like, and they've played around with some of the the power sets they've lowered. They buffed them and they nerfed some stuff here and there, and they seem to be doing it just each season, not like in other games where it's like they constantly do it. Like it's every a few weeks. It's like, oh hey, Human Torch is too powerful, so we're gonna drop him down. And then a few weeks later, it's like, oh wait a minute, we dropped him down too much, so they're gonna bump him back up. So I kind of liked how they're only doing it season wise, and they even said that too. Like sometimes if they see somebody that's like super powerful, they're not gonna put him in there. So I think as long as they get the characters, the move set down. I think it's fine. Like, I mean, they have Jeff the Shark. I didn't even heard of that character before, and I know he's fairly new, or she. I don't know if it's a man or woman, or male or female. He's a fairly new character, but they put him in there. They put Mantis in there. They put even Hela. Like, okay, she was in, she was in Thor. Was it Ragnarok? So people might kind of know her, but still, she's not super well known. She was pretty good. I kind of liked her in Thor Ragnarok, but I think as long as they get the move set, right. I think it's, and they still, they could still put, like you said, they don't have Daredevil in there. They could still put Daredevil in there. They could still put, all these other ton of X-Men they can put in there still, just other teams that they have out in the Marvel, universe. I think if they can balance it too, like that should be, I think it should do fairly well. I personally, I kind of like these kind of like lesser known characters just because they kind of get the spotlight. Like even, well, I was gonna say Luna Snow, but she was totally created for like another game, so like nobody really knew who she was. But I don't even, but she might be in the comics now, but she was totally created in a separate game that they actually put in this one. So I thought that was kind of cool too. It was like I never heard her. Cloak and Dagger I thought was pretty good that they put them in there. I don't really like playing them. I've tried it, but that might be another character I just got to try again, at a future time. So yeah, I think if they can do that balance, it should be fine.
They have an Alpha Flight season. That might be the one that I have to jump in on.
Yeah, Puck. You can have Puck in there.
Yeah, Sasquatch. Yeah, Sasquatch. Okay. Yep.
What I think they need to do is put in more villains because they don't have a lot of villains right now. So technically, Hela's a villain. Well, I shouldn't say technically. She's a villain. I guess you could say Loki's a villain, but I guess he's more and a hero now. Same thing with Venom. He's started as a villain, but now he's kind of a hero. But they kind of have a lot of those. They don't really have like true villains other than Hela really in there. So I think they got to get some more villains in there. That should be good.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's an Apple stable, right? You could do the Shock. I mean, you could run the whole Spider-Man's Rogues Gallery, like Shocker, Vulture, Scorpion. Of course, well, I don't know. I guess they're not paying that much attention to canon, so we don't have to worry about the whole late '80s Scourge knocking off villains that don't exist anymore. So I think
you can bring in other variants, so that's fine because it's a multi-universe thing storyline that's running through it. So. Like even the heroes that they have in there now are like variants of like other universes. So
yeah, you got plenty of fodder to mill still. So just a quick hit here. I picked up the definitive edition of Xenoblade Chronicles X for the Switch. Playing it just a little bit, so I'll talk more about it next week. It looks great on my OLED. Running pretty good. I'm already further in it than I ever got with the Wii U version, and mainly just because it doesn't have nearly the amount of loads that loading times and loads that the Wii U had. I did throw it up in the dock on a 1080p 55-inch TV, and what I thought looked really beautiful running in handheld. It definitely, you can tell that it is an up-resed Wii U game. You get some of the flatness in the textures and the polygons. But running really good. It is such a neat premise of kind of a sci-fi RPG in terms of kind of the setup in the world. And it plays, the combat is a little different than the traditional Xenoblade Chronicles setup. So it's much more kind of auto battling to some degree in terms of managing your cooldowns and treating it much more like an MMO in terms of the combat. But if you've enjoyed some of the other ones, this was one of the few things that was still kind of stuck out on Wii U. And to now have it as the definitive edition, which has added in more story content and some characters that actually finish the story where the original kind of ended in a cliffhanger. So I'm glad to have it in my collection and glad that people get a chance to rediscover it after 10 years.
And did you get a physical copy of that? Sorry.
Yeah. Yep, I did. I have a physical copy of all the Xenoblade ones just for the sake of it.
Okay, very cool. Thank you very much. Some comments from Warawana in E8 that I've brought up on the screen. So thanks a lot, guys, for participating in the show. Last bit, I just want to cover quickly new releases coming out this year. this week. Out this week, Killing Floor 3 on PC, PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X and S comes out on 25 March. Atomfall on PC, PS4 and 5, Xbox One, Xbox Series X and S comes out on 27 March. And finally, The First Berserker Kazan out on PC, starring Ben Starr, out on PC, PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X and S on 27 March. Any of those games in your guys' wheelhouse? Anything that you're looking to pick up while you select something to put down and put back in the backlog this week?
I'm interested to see what Atomfall turns out being in terms of kind of not really Fallout, not really survival, but somewhere kind of in its own space. So it's interesting. But I also, given that I'm just starting to get sucked into Assassin's Creed, I'm not in any real hurry to put something down yet.
Kyle, how about you?
I'll probably check out Atomfall since it's going to be on Game Pass. But there's another one on here that you don't have on here is Enzoi, which is the Sims-like a game that's coming out in early access. Officially, I guess Friday, but for the US, it's actually going to be, I think, late or early evening Thursday. So I'll probably jump on that and try that out.
Yeah, and I'm like you, DBQ. Like I've got Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, Monster Hunter Wilds, Assassin's Creed Shadows, still plugging through Dynasty Warriors Origins. Picked up PGA Tour 2K25, which I'm resisting it because I know that game can easily become a very idle time sink and just suck hours out of your life. Like I said, we won't talk about it in detail, but I do love the fact that you can set it up so it kind of gives you a random number of holes to play in a game instead of forcing you to pick 6, 12, 18. I like that notion of it kind of being random. And I've still got Avowed as well as Civ 7 to play through some more of. So none of these games are so squarely in my wheelhouse that I feel like I would put something down in order to pick any of them up. We have a lot of big releases coming out next month with Clair Obscur and South of Midnight, both of which we got word have gone gold over the weekend. And then we have Doom the Dark Ages coming out in May. So I think for right now, I'm more concerned about clearing out things, or at least getting enough time in them so that I am comfortable with the ROI I've gotten out of these games before I pick up any of these. All right. Well, thanks so much, everyone, for joining in the show tonight. Thanks so much, DBQ, Cal Master, for joining in. For those who came through the live stream, we appreciate you. Thank you, Warwana. Thank you, Enate. Warwana mentions, I think the games that I mentioned, Expedition 33, Doom, South of Midnight. Thanks so much for you guys coming through. For anybody who watches the archive version of the show on the Enough to Keep Going week or on the E2KG Network podcasting channel on YouTube, we appreciate you as well. Please feel free to like the video and subscribe to the channel so you can just receive a notification whenever we post new content. We will be back next week at the regularly scheduled time of 8 p.m. Eastern time on the E2KG Network podcasting channel. Until next time, take care of yourselves. Stay safe out there. Play the games that you like. Come here to talk to us about the games that you love. Once again, my name has been Game Logic from the Rounding Off Infinity Gaming channel on YouTube. Here with my co-hosts DBQ and Tao. Next week, DBQ will be in the center seat, and it'll just be me flying co-pilot. Until next time, good night, good luck, and good gaming. That's going to do it for us. We're out of here.